Hello everybody and welcome to the Opinions of Avalon. In this video series I'm going to be discussing aspects of the game Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, sharing my thoughts and just my general impressions about the game. In this video series I thought it would be fun to go through the character skill cards and just doing a quick little ranking of which ones I think are definitely worth grabbing, which ones I think are just the most impressive, and which ones I don't think are very impressive, because I think there are a handful of them that I'm actually not very impressed with. So just a spoiler warning, we are going to go through all these character skill cards and discussing their effects and things like that. So well, the thing is, I don't really view this as a spoiler because these cards are the information on these cards is open. Like, you can pick these up and flip through them and look at them anytime you want. So it's not really spoilery, but who knows, just in case somebody doesn't want to look through them like I am about to. So the plan is we're going to go through all these skill cards, and we're going to first go through all of the odd number side, and then we'll flip and do the even number side on the back. Okay? So let's get started because we got a bunch of these to get through. So first up we have Monster Strength. In combat, whenever you connect a double aggression key, gain one additional damage. That's pretty impressive. I feel like you'd have to build your deck a little more specifically in order to have a lot of these double aggression key connectors. Definitely you want somebody who's very good in combat. Bior is kind of the obvious one that most people will pick. I think it's kind of medium. It's not bad, but it's not very amazing just because this isn't going to happen all the time. So we'll stick it in our medium spot right there. Okay, next up we have Combat Reflexes. During an encounter, pay 1 energy to draw 1 card. I do actually like that. That's pretty good. I feel like because sometimes when you combo off a lot and then you don't have any cards in your hand, it is nice to be able to pay an energy to draw one. Now that I say that, though, I need to realize that energy is actually one of the most important resources in the game. So I actually don't know if it's worth paying an energy to draw a card. I don't think that's actually an equal. The more I talk about it, the least I actually like this. I don't actually like this. I think I've settled. I actually am not a fan of this. So I think it's gonna go on my this. I'm just gonna do 3 tiers. Like, these are the ones I really like. This is kind of the medium. These are I don't really like that at all. So yeah, I'm actually not a fan of that one. I don't think it's worth to pay 1 energy to draw 1 card. I feel like the only time you do that is in an emergency, and drawing that 1 card doesn't guarantee you're gonna win. So you will probably waste an energy drawing a card that you won't need. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. Next up is Exertion. Once per encounter, you may remove 1 time counter from any card in the sequence. That is really good because lots of times, if you want to chain off and play down a bunch of cards, sometimes you're going to play a card that has one of these time token effects on it, but then you're like, but if I want to continue going, I have to cover up the time token, removing it from being able to go off. So I like this quite a lot. Once again, you kind of have to build your deck around it so that there actually is cards that you put time tokens down on. But no, I think this is really dang good. So I'm going to put it up here. Also, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would love to hear your opinions on these as I go through them as well. Next one is Last Breath. Once per encounter, when your combat or diplomacy deck is empty, shuffle your discard pile and add the top 5 cards to your deck. Okay, so I don't like this that much. Mainly because I don't know, in my experience in playing the game, not often do you have a bunch of cards in your discard pile. Often they're just in the sequence that you're playing with, and sometimes the enemy just is really strong, or maybe you're not drawing the cards in the right order, or maybe it's maybe combat is your weak spot, or diplomacy is your weak spot, and you're going to be playing all these cards and it's just going to be in the chain, but it's not going to be in your discard pile. So even when this ability goes off, sometimes you won't even have 5 cards in your discard pile to put on top of your deck. So this seems like a really rare niche card ability that really isn't going to help you very much. So this is kind of going in my bad pile over here. All right, next up is Hate Infusion. When activating a menhir, you may pay with magic instead of energy. I do like this. This is definitely a card I would probably grab if I was playing Maggot, since he can produce magic pretty easily. Once again, energy is definitely one of your highest valuable resources in the game. Magic is pretty important. I don't know, it's kind of a medium. You need it to light menhirs, and it helps out in combat, but it's not really necessary. I'd say magic is pretty low, but magic is also one of the hardest things to find as well. So I feel like this is really only for maggot, I would say, just because he can produce it so easily. Okay, if you're playing maggot, I would say it's right here, just because this does help. Because once you light them in here, then you continue your story. You won't be exhaust. You won't have to exhaust yourself in cases that you need to light them in here quickly. So if you're just a caveat, if you're playing maggot, I like this card, and I'm gonna put it in my medium slot. If you're not playing maggot, I think it's kind of here actually. Okay, Combat Instinct. During an encounter, increase your hand limit by 1. So keep in mind, this doesn't mean you draw an extra card. This just means you can have 4 cards in your hand at the end of the turn instead of 3 cards. Rarely do I actually have more than 3 cards in my hand, I feel. I mean, if your deck allows you to draw a bunch of cards, then it's really good. But I'd say in general, this isn't too amazing. It's not going to come up very often, because when you end your turn, you don't want cards in your hand. You want the cards on the battlefield. You want them in the sequence, taking out your opponent. So not a big fan of that one at all, really. So I'm going to put that one over there. Okay. Ooh, okay, we're moving on to Courage, I believe. Inexhaustible Stamina. If you're not exhausted at the end of the day, after restoring your energy, gain 1 additional point of energy. Love this card. Like I've said, energy is probably one of the most valuable resources in the game, and this pretty much gets you 1 extra point of energy every turn as long as you're not exhausted. So, big fan of this. I'm going to stick this over here. Next up is Bodyguard. In combat, when another party member receives damage, you may decide to receive this damage instead. It becomes unavoidable. That's really tough. The thing is this, so most of the time when you'd want to use this, I guess there's multiple cases you could use it. Maybe I have this ability and my character is a little more tankier, or maybe I'm just like, hey, you have way better cards than I do. I'm going to take the damage so that you're not going to die and defeat this. So it's all right, but I don't know. I guess I'd put it I'm going to put it in the middle. Just keep in mind, if you're playing solo, this doesn't do anything. Well, if you're playing true solo. If you're playing true solo, it doesn't do anything. But if you're playing, having 2 characters, but you're playing solo, then it does work. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I should put it here. I kind of want to put it here. But I think I'm going to go for here, because that is pretty useful, in case it's like, hey, like, the character who's really good at combat is really low on health, so I'm going to chump some of the damage so that he can actually destroy the person, the encounter. So anyways, next up, always forward. In combat, gain 1 damage for each card you discard during the end of turn phase. Don't really like this. I've rarely actually had to discard cards from my hand. Once again, I feel like if you built your deck around this and just built the deck that was all about drawing cards, then this thing could really destroy, but I don't know if that's even possible. I feel like the most I've had in my hand at the end of the turn is maybe 5 cards total, and that was just because cards lined up right. So I think this is a card you have to build towards, and you can't just get it and just hope that you're going to be able to discard cards. So I feel like it's kind of narrow. Man. Once again, it's kind of in between here and here. I'm going to say, I don't know, it's pretty easy damage too. Okay, I'm going to put it here. Just, you have to build a deck towards it to drawing a lot of cards and discarding them at the end of the turn. Because keep in mind, your hand limit is 3, and you can't, at the end of the turn, you can't just like, okay, I'm going to discard all 3 cards. You can't do that. You have to discard down to 3. So you have to have 4, 5, or 6 cards in your hand at the end of the turn in order for this to do anything. So I'm going to put it there, because I don't know everything about building combat and diplomacy decks, or combat decks, because I just haven't played a million hours yet. But those are just my first thoughts. Next up is Inspiration. The cost of your character's action is decreased by 1 energy, but not lower than 1. Love this. For example, Arab can gain a food by spending 2 energy. If you could spend 1 energy to gain 1 food, that's pretty dang good. I really like this. I think this would be good on pretty much all the characters. Yeah. This is like, maybe I need more than 3 sections, because this is definitely better than that in my opinion. But I'm gonna put it here. I don't think it's up here yet, but I think that is pretty dang good. Okay. Next up, Next up is Daring Explorer. When exploring, you may add +1 to the result of a die roll, once per roll. Okay, so there's moments in the exploration journal. It'll say something like, roll a dice, add your perception, and then you can just tack +1 onto it. And I do like this a lot, mainly because it helps you explore the story of the game a lot easier. It's going to help you open up those avenues. You won't have to explore the same location multiple times, trying to get the perfect die roll. This is going to help you get to that in one shot. So I really do like this, and I actually would take it pretty highly. It's not very useful. It's only useful for exploration journal stuff, but it just makes the game a little easier, in my opinion. So I do like that a lot. Survival diet. Spend 1 energy, gain 1 terror to gain 1 food. Don't like that at all. This is actually kind of garbage, in my opinion. I guess this is only good if your character isn't in trouble at all. Because spending 1 energy and gaining a terror just to get a food, I really don't like that. I mean, it's really good for emergency situations, but the problem is when you're in an emergency situation, that usually means your terror is up or your health is down, and you need to get it up there. And I really don't like that card. I feel like that's a really bad trade, actually. Okay, next up is barter. Oh, we're in the perception section now. Spend 2 energy, shuffle 1 of your items into the deck, and draw 1 item, only in settlements. Is that worth it? You get rid of your worst item to possibly gain 1 random item. It's pretty medium, I would say. It's pretty medium. Yeah, I'm going to go there. 2 energy is quite a lot, and you're getting rid of an item and not guaranteeing what you're going to get. So yeah, that's probably in the medium. Maybe here. Yeah, I feel like I need a 4th category here. Anyways, I'm going to put it there for now. Okay, collector. You may use up to 2 items with the relic keyword at the same time. Love this. Relics usually have some really interesting and really cool abilities on their card. It could increase your energy. It could, there's just a lot of cool stuff when it comes to relics. So I'm a big fan of that, actually. And being able to use 2 of them in combat or just throughout the day, very good. I like that. Okay, next up is Bounty Hunter. Whenever you win an encounter with the Guardian trait, gain 1 rep and 1 wealth. Okay, so that is pretty good, but I feel like Guardians don't pop up a ton in the game. I feel like they pop up every now and then, and to spend your experience on an ability that only occurs maybe every 4 turns, 5 turns, something like that, I feel like that's not really worth it. It's got some cool flavor, like maybe if you're playing the game and you're like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself, I'm going to fight every single Guardian that pops up, I'm going to try and find them and defeat all of them. That's kind of cool. So flavor-wise, it's about here. Practical-wise, I think it's about here, though. And of course, there's different degrees of bad and medium and good, because, like, for example, this Bounty Hunter is definitely better than Survival Diet, in my opinion. But anyways, these are just general things. Let me know what you guys think if I'm placing them where you think they should go. Just tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Simple. Okay, Foresight. Whenever you draw a random blue encounter, you may draw 2 encounters cards and choose 1. Really like this card. If your character is really good at diplomacy, I wouldn't advise getting this one, but if your character isn't very good, then I think this is definitely worth grabbing, just because there are some encounters in the blue deck that you don't have to fight. It's just like, hey, it was a nice day. You don't have to do anything, basically. Or, hey, you met a traveling merchant, and he would like to sell you some stuff. So you can kind of dig for those. For rules on this, I would say, in my opinion, what you do is you draw 2 cards, you pick 1, and the other one goes back on top of the deck. I don't think it goes on the bottom. I think it would state if it goes onto the bottom. I think it might go on top. I am willing to be wrong about that and be corrected, though. Okay, this I do like this a lot, but it's not a tier 1. I'll put it in tier 2. Okay, next up we have Pickpocket. For 0 energy, really like that. Gain 1 wealth, only in settlements once per day. Love this card. This is perfect. It doesn't cost any energy. All you have to do is walk into a settlement, use it real quick, and then leave. And yeah, it's just totally worth it. Yeah, that's definitely a tier 1 in my opinion. Okay. Next up is Expert Hunter. Whenever you gain 1 food during a green encounter, gain 1 additional food. I really like that actually a lot. A lot of the early location cards will say something like spend 2 energy, get 2 food, do a green encounter. And most green encounters yield you 2 food, and this will give you 3, meaning that you're going to be set for way longer. And that'll let you use your energy a lot more efficient. So really like that. We're going to put that in tier 1. Okay, next up is motivation. Spend 2 energy. One chosen character in the same location loses 1 terror. Oh, we're also in the sympathy section. Okay, so Eiley has same ability, except it does health. It heals them, and that's pretty decent. And this is pretty good too. I think it's a tier 2. I think it's helpful, but it's not really like, oh god, that's really gonna save me. Next up is coercion. Pay 1 energy. Pay 2 rep to gain 1 food and 1 wealth. So 1 energy and 2 rep. You lose that to gain 1 food and 1 wealth. The thing is, I feel like rep doesn't come by very often, and I feel like rep can be used for other things. Plus, it does reputation does have an effect on things that happen in the exploration journal, which I kind of put above most things. I think progressing the story and digging deep into the story is very important, and I think this stops you from doing some of that stuff. So I'm not a big fan of this. I'm gonna put that over here. If you disagree with me on that, I will understand. Maybe you can bump it up to this. I don't think it's near this at all, though. Okay, next up, power transfer. Pay 1 energy, pay 1 energy, and pay 1 magic, and 1 health. So it's three resources you have to pay to exchange dials of any 2 active menhirs. That is extremely interesting, but I don't think it's that good because, I mean, I guess if you want to extend the life of your menhir, you would grab one you activated recently and swap it to the one that was activated earlier. I don't see why you'd want to end a menhir too early. Like if you want to, I don't like this. Someone come up with a scenario that this is really good and convince me to move it up to tier 2, because right now it is definitely tier 3. Okay, next up is Insight. At the start of the encounter, you may discard your hand, shuffle your combat or diplomacy deck, and draw the same number of cards once per encounter. So basically, at the start of combat, you normally draw 3 cards, and then you can mulligan by discarding those 3 cards and then drawing 2. Repeat, and then if you want to mulligan again, it'll go from 2 cards down to 1 card. This gives you a mulligan for free. That's pretty medium, I would say. It's not amazing, but it is kind of nice to have that flexibility, and then you can kind of craft your hand to like, okay, like I like those 3, but I want it better, and you could just redraw them again. So it's pretty medium. I guess it'll go there for now. Okay, next up is Paragon of Hope. At the start of each blue encounter, raise the affinity by 1. Love this. It's basically a free card almost, because lots of times you're gonna place diplomacy counters are kind of a nice, slow, steady pace. It's not really a boom, I got like 20 affinity raised up on the affinity track. And I think this just gives you a really good start. And plus, it'll usually put you in the green. And there's a lot of cards that'll say something like, hey, if your affinity's in the green, you get this extra bonus. And it'd be good to have this on. So, big fan of that. That's tier 1, in my opinion. Okay, next up is Perseverance. At the end of the day, when you gain HP, you gain an additional point of HP. Really like that, mainly because that it keeps you alive. B, it stops you from your energy being limited by your HP. It'll increase far up enough that you'll get a lot of HP energy at the end of the day, and whatever helps your energy go up is a big positive in my book. Love this. Definitely tier 1. Okay, next up is Martial Arts Expert. In combat, at the end of your activation, you may shred 1 card. Okay, so this is definitely a card you need to build a deck around, because sometimes shredding a card can be a good thing, sometimes it could be a bad thing, and man, it's probably just because my character's combat deck doesn't want their cards shredded. It's a bad thing when they're shredded. Usually there's a negative effect that happens because you shredded a card. I'm not a big fan of this. I think this is a build around type of card where you have to build your combat deck to use this effectively, but I still don't really like it. You're going to go over here. Okay, next up is Resilience. Whenever you lose 3 or more HP, reduce this loss by 1. So, not a fan of this. I don't know. Okay, whoa. Let's ease up. This is not an early game card. Don't get this early. Get this nice and late. Because in the early game, you don't lose 3 health in one big chunk very often. In the later game, probably will. So pick this up later. And if you do pick it up later, I would put it... This does help you. Technically, it helps you, retain your energy. You won't be limited by your energy because of your health. So I feel like I shouldn't put it here just because you have to have 3 health or more lost, and then usually if that's happening, that means you're losing. So I think it's gonna go here for now. Maybe even here. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. Next up is sharp senses. Whenever you toss a dial, you may toss it again. You must accept the second result. So don't really like this just because, okay, just for spoilers, the back of this is the same ability, but it's with a dice. This one with a dial, when you re-flip it, you have a 50-50 shot of just getting the same thing, and I don't really like those odds. So this is pretty blech, in my opinion. I think I'm going to put it over here. Okay, next up is Deception. If you don't play any cards during your character activation, each other member may draw 1 card. So if you're in a party, and you can just decide not to place any cards during a combat or diplomacy encounter, maybe, yeah, anyways. And if you don't do that, everyone else will draw an extra card. That is pretty nice, to be honest. But the thing is, you're not always going to be in an encounter with the party. You're going to be doing some stuff on your own. So this, I'm kind of leaning towards this. This does increase, the value of this increases the more players you have. So if you're playing a 4-player game, then I think this is really damn good. I think that means we're going to put it in the medium, just because it scales. It definitely has a scale to it. Okay, next up is Rogue Tactics. In combat, at the end of your character activation, you may lose 1 combat. Okay, so this happens pretty rarely. This is when you want to adjust how much damage you did to the opponent in order to kind of manipulate what they're going to do in response. But I feel like most of the time you're just trying to kill the damn thing as fast as you possibly can. Even I'm playing Eiley as my true solo character right now, and even with her, I'm like, I don't want this to be a slow affair. I want this thing dead pretty dang quick so it doesn't do so much damage to me. So I'm not a fan of that. I think you do have to, yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. Call for aid. At the start of the encounter, 1 character in an adjacent connected location may move to your location and join your party. I do like that. That's pretty cool. It's also a free movement for your teammate in case they wanted to, get somewhere and need an extra energy. Ooh, okay. Yeah, because what I would do is I would walk in and then I would pull my buddy with me to the location with this card, and it wouldn't cost them energy to move into the location. So I'm actually a big fan of this. If you're in a party, I think this is worth it, just because you can use it to save energy, which is very valuable. I think I'm going to put this. I want to put it here, but it's probably supposed to go here, but it's leaning this way instead of this way. It's leaning over here. Okay, next up, we're in the spirituality cards now, by the way. Next up is Drain Magic. Remove a dial from a menhir in your location, gain 3 magic, and lose 1 rep. Okay. I do like this, because it doesn't matter where the dial is. Like, it could be on 0, it could be on 1, and you can activate this ability to get 3 magic out of it. You do lose a rep, which does kind of stink, but 3 magic is quite a lot. This is a card I feel like you have to play with and see, like, oh, I actually do use this very often. Because the thing is, if you have 2 menhirs out and you deactivate one with this, you're still fine, because the other menhir is guaranteed to be in the same, going to be in range of you to keep you safe from the weirdness. So I'm going to put them in the medium. I'd have to play with that to know exactly how it goes. Next up is Power of Ages. Whenever you activate a menhir, set its dial to 1 more than instructed, maximum 8. Okay, so as a solo player, this isn't too amazing, because most menhirs start at 8 if you're playing solo. If you're playing it even with 1 other person or 2 other people, and definitely when you're playing with 4, this is incredibly powerful, because the thing is, not only are you gaining an extra day, you're gaining a bunch of extra turns basically for everybody. If you have a full party of 4 people and you increase this dial by 1, you just gained 4 turns basically, because everybody gets to do it, all their actions on the turn. So This is really good, actually. I'm going to put it over here. If you're playing in a party, it's very good. If you're playing as a solo player, this might be good for later in the game when menhirs don't get set so high. Maybe they get set to like a 5 or a 6 or a 7 or something like that. Then it's very helpful, but that definitely scales, and with 4 people, it's definitely an A+. Or, in tier 1. Next up was Spirit Walker. Pay 1 magic and 1 additional magic per party member to move you and all party members from one location with an active menhir to another. I absolutely love that. That's really dang cool. Being able to teleport from one menhir to another, that can help you get over some natural obstacles. It can save you energy. I'm a big fan of that. I'm putting it over there. Okay, we got 3 more for the odd side. Next up, we have Alms. Whenever you rest in a settlement, gain 1 food. Love it. You get a free resource just for doing what you're always going to do. All you have to do is end your turn in a settlement. And sometimes that's the best thing to do anyways. Love it. Yeah, I'm going to put it here. Next up is Communion. Whenever you start a purple encounter, gain 1 magic. Love it. So you get into the encounter, maybe if you can't defeat it, you avoid it or run away, but you still get the 1 magic. Plus it's guaranteed that it's like, hey, you get the magic for the encounter and you can use it during that encounter to help you through it. Love it. It is just purple encounters. I wish it was more than that, but purple encounters can be pretty scary and rough anyways. So maybe that might put that here just because it is only for purple encounters, but I kind of want to leave it here. Let me know what you think about that one, guys. Next up is Total Focus. During an encounter, you may treat each bonus connected to a magic key as a bonus key. This is really cool. This is really, really good. You do have to be a character who can get magic easily. Once again, Maggot is somebody who can get magic pretty dang easily. But this basically means you can chain off a lot easier as long as you have enough magic for it. So that's pretty good. That is a lot of magic is pretty rare resource, so sometimes it's not worth it, so I'm going to put it in here. Okay guys, so here I'm just going to go over my tier 1 cards real quick. I'm just going to flip through them real quick. We got Communion, Alms, Spirit Walker, Power of Ages, Perseverance, Paragon of Hope, Expert Hunter, Pickpocket, Collector, Daring Explorer, Inexhaustible Stamina, and Exertion. So those are kind of the tier 1 cards. This is tier 2. We're not going to flip through those in tier 1. So now what we're going to do is we are going to flip these over, and we're going to do the even side. And we're going to start with the tier 3 and see if any of those have any cards on the back side that are really good and can go in tier 1. Okay? So, and these are all going to be mixed up. They're not going to go through. They'll follow kind of a similar pattern. Anyways, but anyway, so next up, now or never. Once per encounter, draw 1 extra card during your character activation. That is incredibly good. 1 extra card free every single turn. That's really freaking awesome. The backside of it is the combat reflexes, the 1 energy to draw a card. This is cool because you can use it multiple times to draw a lot of cards, but once again, energy, there's a limit to it. This is just 1 extra card every single turn. This side is highly superior to this one, in my opinion. This definitely goes tier 1. Because it's free. You get something good for free for doing just what you do anyways. Next up is 1 step ahead. During an encounter, play with the top card of your combat or diplomacy deck face up. That is kind of cool. I feel that sounds very useful, but it's probably not that useful. Yeah. I'm going to put it over here just because I like it, but I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's tier 2 worthy. Okay, next up is Swiftness. If you are not using any item with the armor keyword, ignore the ambush trait and draw 1 extra card at the start of each combat. So you start out with 4 cards instead of 3, and you ignore 1 specific type of an enemy trait. It's a little narrow just because it's just 1 trait, but you do get to start with 4 cards, which usually means you can chain better. You have a lot more options. I'm feeling it. I'm going to put you here. Okay. Next up is Fear to Fuel. Ignore the negative effects of nightmares. If you have a nightmare, gain 1 magic. This is incredibly strong on Maggot. Holy crap! Because one of Maggot's weaknesses is when he has when he dreams, you flip a coin. If you get the Grail side, you have the normal dream, but if you have the Skull side, you have a nightmare. And this gets rid of the negative effects. This gains you magic. If you're not playing Maggot, I don't think it's worth it at all, because you don't have nightmares very often, I would say, because if you're having nightmares, that usually means you're dying, and you're going to die soon. So, if you're playing Maggot, A+, all the way. If you're not playing Maggot, kind of, it's over here. Just curious, on the back is the spend 1 terror and 1 food, and to gain 1 food. So, yeah, that's pretty garbage. This is really good for playing Maggot. So, I'm going to put it over here just for Maggot's sake. Next up is Traveler's Rights. Whenever you draw a random event, you may pay 1 magic to discard it and draw a new one from the random event deck. No, that's pretty lame. Yeah, I don't like that at all. because the thing is, spending magic is rare commodity for one thing. Plus it speeds up the event deck, which means the big events occur faster. Yeah, I don't like this at all. That's pretty trash. Let me know what you guys think about that one, though. Next up is Charity. Pay 1 energy and pay 2 food or 2 wealth to gain 2 rep. No, that's way too much. 2 food, so let's ignore the energy. 2 food for 2 rep is like, okay, that's kind of nice. 2 wealth for 2 rep I don't think is worth it, because I feel like wealth is pretty rare in the game. But attacking on that 1 energy to do this is... I don't know. That's the nail in the coffin for me. I'm not interested in that at all. Next up is Boldness. During an encounter, you treat all X free keys as 1x. This is incredibly strong. I use this on Eiley, and there's so many moments where I'm just like, oh crap, that's an X, and then I remember to have this card, and it just changes the whole game. That way you can connect bonus cards easier. You can get the ×2, ×3. Active effects better. This is definitely tier 1. Just curious, on the back is the pay 1 magic and 1 health to exchange dials of any 2 active menhirs. When you make your choice between this side and this side, choose this side every time, people. Keep in mind it also says encounter, so that means it's combat and diplomacy. Okay, next up is Sneak Attack. In combat, if you play the first card in the sequence, double the total number of damage it adds to the combat pool. This is amazing, especially as a solo player, because basically every single time you lay down your first card, you get double the amount of damage you do. So this is definitely worth it. You can one-shot a lot of good stuff with that. That's definitely tier 1. So just curious, on the back of it is the Martial Arts Expert, the one where you can shred a card at the end of your turn. The thing is, this takes a specific deck. You can literally throw this in any deck and it's going to be amazing. So just pick Sneak Attack, people. Next up is Lucky. When exploring, you may re-roll a die. Once per exploration, you must accept the second result. See, so I like this better than the coin, because the coin is only a 50-50 shot of actually changing anything. Let's say you roll a 3, and you could just be off by 1 point to, dig deeper in the exploration journal, and you being able to re-roll it gives you, a higher chances of getting a higher number than just 50-50, So if you get this card, and you have to choose between flipping the coin and the die, pick the die side, the lucky side, okay? This is about a medium, I would say. Okay, next up is Skillful. The cost of your character action is decreased by 1 energy, but not lower than 1. Okay, there's 2 of these, I guess. So, once again, really dang good. This can reduce Aerith and Eileen's abilities down to 1 energy. It can help out Bior when he's crafting items to make it just a little bit cheaper. It doesn't take, a whole day to craft an item. It only takes about 2 energy, I think. I think it costs 3 total, and this would reduce it to 2. You can correct me, though, on that. Either way, pretty decent. I'm going to put it here. Next up is Dual Wielding. When not using an item with a shield keyword, you may use 2 items with the weapon keyword at the same time. Really like this. This is definitely going to help you one-shot your enemies really quickly and just be fully prepared to defeat bad guys left and right. So I really like that. I'm going to put it here just because it is dependent on your items. And in my experience, it's actually kind of tough to get items. I feel like I haven't gotten a lot of items in my playthrough yet. Okay, next up is elbow grease. Whenever you pay the cost of activating a Menhir, you may pay it with energy instead of magic. Do not like this. Your energy is super, super important, and I feel like using it, exchanging that for magic, it just isn't worth it. Mainly just because I feel like magic, while magic is kind of scarce, there is ways to get it, and you just need to focus on it a little bit more. So, not a big fan of that. I'm going to put it over here. That was creepy. Sorry, something moved, and I probably just scooched it. Next up is Inspiring Leader. Your companions do not require any payment. I do like this. It's really nice. You do have to have a companion with you, so I don't know. It's reliant on you having a specific card, so you wouldn't get the skill card until you had a companion card, and you could probably lose your companion card at some point. I'm actually not a fan of that, just because it's so reliant on you having another card. It's not good all the time. Forge Ahead. At the start of each encounter, draw one extra card and then discard a card. That's decent. You get to kind of filter your hand, look for a card that you're like, man, I don't really need that. I don't know how useful that is, though, just because it is only one time. Not a fan. I don't think I'm a fan of that. Okay, Do or Die. If you're exhausted, you may spend your health instead of energy. This is very rare because I feel like most of the time you only need to become exhausted by overspending your energy very rarely. It doesn't happen a ton, and which means it's going to be extremely rare when you have to spend energy, but you're out, and then you can use your health instead, which then reduces your energy on the next turn. Yeah, I don't like that anymore. So that's gone. Okay. Slick Salesman. Spend 1 energy to discard 1 item to gain 2 wealth. I do like that quite a lot, actually. There's some items that will allow you can technically kind of sell them, because it's like, hey, flip a coin. If you get a grail, you get 2 wealth and discard this item. But this is you just spend 1 energy and get the 2 wealth. Yeah, notice you can do it anywhere. It doesn't say in a settlement or out of a settlement. It can be anywhere. So I kind of like that. I'm going to put it here. Next up is Tracker. Whenever you draw a random green encounter, you may draw 2 encounter cards and choose 1. So this is really good if your character isn't very good at combat and you want to avoid it as much as possible, or you want to just make sure you don't come off fighting any guardians or anything crazy like that. So pretty good. I'd put it here. Okay, next up is Unconventional Remedies. Pay 1 energy, gain 1 terror, and gain 1 HP. I do not like this. Sorry. I do not like that. Sorry, I think it's my cat trying to get in. Sorry, guys. 1 second. That's my kitty cat. Just coming in. Just say hi. Okay, sorry guys. Anyways, Fast Learner is next. Whenever you upgrade your combat or diplomacy deck, draw 4 cards instead of 3. Then choose 1. That's alright, I guess. I don't know. I feel like every time I've drawn 3 cards, I've always found one that I really like. Yeah, I don't really like that much. Okay, next up is Calming Presence. In combat, when the enemy attacks, if the last card in the sequence has no energy or aggressive or 2 aggressive keys, prevent 1 damage. I don't really like that. I don't know. I guess it's nice. I feel like you have to build your deck around that just to use it as much as possible. But I think that goes here. Nah, we're gonna put it here. I mean, it's damage prevention, and I feel like there's enough combat keys out there with the aggression symbol, and you can kind of build your deck around that. That I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to put that in medium. Sorry, I think my cat kind of threw me off a little bit there. I'm going to try and get back in the flow here. Okay. Last resort. At the start of the affinity check, if the marker is in the lowest slot of the affinity track, you may play any diplomacy card from your hand once per encounter. I do not like that. Because the thing is this. Okay, so you're losing. The affinity track is all the way at the bottom. You get to play 1 card. You're going to play it, increase, maybe bump up by 1 or 2 points, and then the next turn, it's just going to go down again. I feel like this isn't going to save you very often. I feel like this is a, oh, you have to be losing in order for this to be good. And it's like, no, I want cards that help me get from medium to good. And this gets you from bad to medium. So don't really like that. I'm going to put it here. Careful movement. Pay 2 energy, move to any connected location with a guardian without triggering the encounter with this guardian. No. Do not like this. I feel like you can avoid guardians pretty easily. Plus, when you roll the dice, they move around. Or when you roll the guardian dice, they move around, and I don't know. Like, I feel like you're just rarely going to need this. So, not a fan. This is going in tier 3. The even sides are very different than the odd side. Okay, next up is drain health. Remove a dial from a menhir in your location, gain 4 health and lose 1 rep. So I'm assuming the other side. So the other side is magic and this side is health. That's pretty decent. I'm trying to remember. I think I put this in the medium, and I think this is the same thing. The thing is also, I feel like that's all right. I'm gonna put it in medium. Okay, next up is Deadly Magic. In combat, every time you connect a magic key, gain 1 damage. Really good for Maggot because you can get magic so often. Gaining extra damage, but spending your magic to do it. I feel like that's kind of an emergency situation. It's not something you're going to do all the time, but it is helpful. I'm going to go medium. Okay, next up is Feast of Heroes. When resting, you may consume any amount of additional food to gain the same amount of energy. Okay, so this means that you can eat like 2 food, and you gain 2 health and lose 2 terror, but you do gain the same amount of energy. That is extremely helpful, and there's so many times that I'm like, man, if I could eat 2 or 3 food, I could save my butt. So I'm putting that tier 1. Okay, next up is Tireless. You only become exhausted when your energy reaches 0. This is amazing. It basically gives you 1 extra energy. It's just a card that says, hey, you just get 1 extra energy every single turn. Love this card. Yeah, this should be one of the first things you get, in my opinion. Okay, next up is Devil's Deal. When exploring, after you roll a die, you may toss a dial. Grail +2 to the result, Skull -2 to the result. This is garbage, in my opinion. I do not think that's worth it, mainly because the skull gives you a negative. Sorry, I think my cat's being stupid. Sorry. Okay, sorry about this, guys. Anyways, do not like this because it actually has a negative effect on it, and I don't think you should take this card. Next up is Hunger Resistant. When resting, gain 1 HP and lose 1 terror, even if you don't eat. So keep in mind this doesn't. So if you eat, you don't get 2 health and 2 terror. It's an either or. It's like, hey, you can either eat and get this and increase your energy, or you can not eat, become exhausted, but you still get this ability. So that's pretty nice. It does give you a little bit of flexibility. If you're already gonna be exhausted, then you're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna eat, and it's gonna, so if you're like, okay, I'm gonna be exhausted anyways, so I'm not gonna eat, but I still get the good benefits of it. So I really like that. I think that's gonna go up top. Okay, we just got a handful of cards left. Gambling. Pay 1 energy, pay 1 rep, and toss a dial, gain 1 wealth, skull, gain nothing. Garbage. Don't use that. It's just too risky. I mean, if you get the skull, you feel like crap. And you only get 1 wealth. If it was 2 wealth, I think this card might be worth it, but 1 wealth, that's not worth it. Next up is Cannibalism. When you win a gray encounter, you may gain 2 food and lose 2 rep. I actually really like that. If you're playing Neve, the character the character that can slot into any of the character tiles, this is perfect because she's not going to have any rep anyways because of her negative ability. You just get 2 food every time you have a gray encounter. I'm going to put this in the medium, maybe if you just don't care about reputation, because gaining 2 food every time is really nice, plus along with the loot that you get from defeating a gray encounter anyways. Next up is Common Understanding. In Diplomacy, when you play a card, you may treat gray and red spaces on the affinity track as green. This is very deck specific. You want a deck that says a lot of, hey, if the affinity track is green, you get good stuff, because this changes basically the whole thing to green. So Kind of specific. Is it going to help you out a ton? Possibly. I'm going to put you here, though. I don't know. Maybe here. I'm going to put it here. Okay. Clear-minded. At the end of the day, when you lose one terror, you lose an additional terror. That's all right, I guess. That is pretty decent. Basically, if you have this card, you're basically never going to go insane because it's going to drop you down fast enough. Which is worth it. Which maybe, yeah, this one does health as well. And I don't know if I put that in the top tier, but I think this card on both sides is top tier because it keeps you from dying. It keeps you from getting the you are going insane card or you are dying card, which just is very detrimental. So that goes top tier for me. Next up is Enkindler. Enkindler? Pay 2 energy and pay 2 magic. Don't really like this, but let's see what happens. To add 1 to the dial of the active men here in your location. This is really bad because I feel like it costs less to just, well, it doesn't cost less, but basically you're activating the men here again because lots of times it's 2 energy, 2 magic, and then it would be like 1 food, 1 wealth. And it's like you're spending 4 total resources just to move the dial up by 1. Don't like that. Garbage. Next up is Menhir Affinity. Whenever you activate an already active Menhir, reduce the activation cost by 1 energy and 1 of your other resource. See, now this is good. This is really good. Not tier 1, but it's tier 2 at least. Just because it helps you keep the Menhirs going, which I feel like you're going to need to pretty often because there's just so much to explore in a certain area that you're going to have to stay there for quite a while. So this is a good medium card. Okay, next up is Ascetism? You can correct me on that all you guys want. At the end of the day, you may consume magic instead of food. That's kind of nice. It gives you a nice flexibility. It's not garbage. It's not amazing. So it's in the medium. Okay, last one, guys. Last one is Face Your Fears. Whenever you win a purple encounter, lose 1 terror. It's pretty good because most purple encounters do increase your terror. So that's pretty convenient. I'd put it in the medium here. Okay, let's go just a quick go over my tier 1 cards. Clear-minded, Hunger Resistant, Tireless, Feast of Heroes, Sneak Attack, Boldness, Fear to Fuel, and Now or Never. Alright guys, hope that was a fun video for you guys to watch. Guys, tell me what you guys think. Do you think I rated these right? Do you think there's anything I need to adjust? Just share your opinions down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Guys, I hope this video was entertaining for you guys to watch, and I hope you have a great day exploring Avalon in this amazing game. We'll see you around. Bye.